Level 1. The Kitchen Helper. At 17, you walk through the back door of a small neighborhood restaurant wearing a plain apron that looks too big for your body. The smell of sautéing onions, garlic browning in butter, and fresh bread straight out of the oven fills the air before your shift even starts. On the counter in front of you sits an endless pile of vegetables, a knife that's lost most of its edge, and a cutting board scarred by thousands of old cuts. Your first task seems simple: peel potatoes, wash greens, and organize ingredients. But you cut the pieces into uneven sizes, knock an entire crate of tomatoes onto the floor, and nearly let a pot burn because you got distracted watching the more experienced cooks. A few of them laugh quietly while the chef just points at another pile of onions without saying a word. By the end of the shift, your hands sting from small cuts, your legs ache from standing so long, and your clothes smell like the kitchen from head to toe. Even exhausted, there's a feeling that's hard to explain. This is where you realize something. Nobody starts out creating unforgettable dishes. First, you learn to respect every ingredient. Level 2. The Disciplined Cook. At 19, the kitchen no longer feels like a chaotic place. You learn to sharpen knives properly, prep ingredients ahead of service, and organize your station almost automatically. The steady rhythm of knives on cutting boards, the clatter of pots, and orders coming in one after another stop feeling frightening. Still, the pressure is enormous. A sauce reduces too much because you misjudge the timing. A steak sits a few seconds past its ideal point. A plate comes back from the table because the temperature wasn't right. Every small mistake feels huge. But you start to understand that cooking well depends far more on repetition than on talent. A new helper joins the restaurant and watches you the exact same way you used to watch the veterans. That changes the way you see everything. What nobody tells you at the start is that confidence is born long after discipline. Level 3. The Line Cook. At 21, you finally take over an important station during service. Now it's not enough to just prep ingredients. You have to finish plates while dozens of orders come in at once. The heat from the flat tops warms your face, steam rises off the pans, and the clock seems to run faster than ever. You hear the chef calling out orders one after another while you try to stay in control. At first, you rush too much, forget a side dish, and send out an incomplete plate. Your heart races when it comes back to your station. But after a few minutes of taking deep breaths, you realize that speed without organization just creates more chaos. For the first time, you understand that cooking under pressure requires calm before speed. When that shift ends, you're not proud because everything came out perfect. You're proud because you managed to keep thinking while everyone around you seemed to be running. Level 4. Obsessed with technique. At 24, cooking stops being just a job. Now you spend your mornings studying cookbooks, learning different cuts, understanding the chemical reactions in food, temperatures, fermentation, stocks, emulsions, and cooking methods. You save up for months to buy a better knife and start visiting markets to discover new ingredients. This is where the difference between seeming creative and truly mastering the kitchen becomes clear. Many cooks memorize recipes. You start to understand why they work. For the first time, you notice invisible patterns between flavor, texture, and balance. That completely changes the way you cook. But along with growth come new challenges. The more you learn, the more you realize how much of this world you still don't know. Level 5. The Reliable Sous Chef. At 27, the chef no longer needs to check everything you do. You coordinate part of the team, build schedules, solve problems before they reach the dining room, and teach the newer cooks. The restaurant stays packed. The sounds of plates, conversation, and orders create a constant kind of symphony. You can already predict critical moments just by reading the rhythm of the kitchen. A supplier is late with an important delivery, a piece of equipment breaks down mid-dinner service. A cook doesn't show up without warning. Even so, service goes on. This is where you realize something. Cooking well is only half the job. Leading people is much harder than controlling pots and pans. And if you've made it this far, you already understand that the next levels don't depend only on your hands. They depend on your ability to help the whole team grow together. Level 6. The Executive Chef. At 31, you finally get the chance to run your own kitchen. Now every detail runs through you. Choosing ingredients, building the menu, training the staff, managing costs, dealing with suppliers, overseeing service. For the first time, you understand that running a restaurant takes just as much knowledge as cooking does. You spend hours analyzing waste, adjusting recipes, and talking to customers to understand their experience. What nobody tells you at the start is that a great chef spends more time solving problems than holding a pan. You learn that creativity without organization drives any kitchen straight into failure. Little by little, your restaurant starts earning praise, and customers come back bringing friends. Your reputation finally starts to grow. Level 7. The Name of the City. At 35, your restaurant starts showing up on the region's best of lists. People book reservations weeks in advance. Food critics show up unannounced. Journalists ask for interviews. Young cooks send you messages asking how to land a spot on your team. Financially, your life changes completely. You're able to invest in modern equipment, rare ingredients, and training abroad. But along with recognition comes a new kind of pressure. Now, every plate that goes out carries your signature. A single mistake can spark criticism that spreads fast. This is where you learn that a reputation takes years to build and only a few minutes to fall into doubt. Hold on to that, because it explains why so many talented cooks disappear right after their first taste of success. Level 8. The internationally recognized chef. At 42, you travel the world discovering new culinary cultures. You cook alongside great professionals, take part in international festivals, and develop exclusive menus inspired by different culinary traditions. Your cooking now blends technique, creativity, and a style all your own. Every ingredient now serves a clear purpose. You no longer cook to impress. You create complete experiences. But the top has its own price. Constant travel, enormous responsibilities, complex financial decisions, and an ever-growing team all depend on your choices. For the first time, you understand that true leadership means inspiring other people to cook better than you do. Level 9. The master who leaves a legacy. At 55, you walk back into a simple kitchen, one that looks a lot like the one where it all began. The smell of sautéing garlic is exactly the same. The sound of knives against the cutting board still echoes through the kitchen. A young helper struggles to cut onions cleanly while quietly watching your every move. You smile, because you recognize that look right away. It's the same one you had decades ago. Your hands carry small scars, old burn marks, and years of quiet work. But now you understand something that took an entire career to learn. No great chef is remembered only for the dishes they created. They're remembered for the people they taught to cook better, to work with respect, and to find beauty even in the simplest tasks. You pick up a knife, calmly show the young cook the right cut, and hand the knife over. In that instant, the whole journey comes full circle. The poorly peeled potatoes from day one, the burnt pans, the exhausting nights, the chaotic services, the packed restaurants, and the awards you won. They all led exactly to this moment. Because somewhere in some kitchen, right now, someone is holding a knife for the first time, with no idea that today's small mistakes will become the most important ingredient in their own story.